a great breeder, a good breeder, responsible breeder, doesn't produce a whole litter of show quality dogs, right? So they're good temperaments, but they're maybe not exactly perfect, right? And frankly, no dog is exactly perfect. So it's really a great place to go if you want a good quality, predictable, purebred dog, and not even be interested in showing them.
Do you find, like, when you go to the show, do the breeds sort of stick together? Is it sort of like cliques at a high school, like playground? Is it sort of like, oh, sorry, only Tibetans over here, please? Welcome to Let's Boop Snoots. My name's Heidi.
And my name is Vero.
And have we got a treat for you today?
We have a special guest today. Her name is Kathryn Ray. She raises Tibetan Mastiffs. She also has an alpaca farm, which is how she got started with having Tibetan Mastiffs. So today she's on our podcast. We're going to talk about her dogs. She's just been to the Westminster Kennel Club show, so we're going to talk about that and about dog conformation and a whole lot more.
Yeah.
So welcome, Kathryn.
Yes, welcome, Kathryn.
Hi, you guys. How's it going?
It's going awesome.
Good.
So Kathryn reached out to us after hearing our show on talking about competing dogs and talking about the National Dog Show and all those types of things. But she has firsthand experience in it and reached out to our show, which we are very grateful for. And as Vero said, she just competed just last week at the Westminster show. So we've got lots of questions. We've got lots of clarifications on how these competitions work and the groupings and the classes and that sort of thing. And we're so happy to have you, Kathryn. So thank you for joining us.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you for answering my email. Yes, I was right.
So we're dying to know what happened last week. Yes, I want to hear about your experience and how the show went.
So Ramen and I drove from Colorado, where we live, out to New York to do the Westminster Kennel Club Dog Show. It was our very first time taking a trip that far and attending such a prestigious show. And so Ramen, he was awarded given the Award of Merit, which is essentially third place for boy dogs.
Yay!
The Award of Merit is, yes. So the Award of Merit is discretionary. So normally it's best in show, best of breed, best opposite, select, and then the Award of Merit is up to the judge as to whether or not they give that. So we feel honored to have received that level of recognition.
Absolutely.
And then we drove home. So.
Well, that sounds amazing. We're so happy that you got that Award of Merit. Another question that we had was, how did you start in competing? Where did it all begin?
It began with a seed planted, actually. So we got the Tibetan Mastiffs, probably about on the order of about 11 or 12 years ago. We got our first Tibetan Mastiffs. And the breeder that we got our first dogs from was sort of trying to encourage me to show. And I wasn't really interested in showing, but I thought we might want to breed dogs. So I wanted a breeding quality, working quality dog, but not necessarily a show quality. So she planted the seed, and we went and saw her show a couple of times, and it was sort of interesting, but they didn't really say much about what was going on. So I was completely confused. And I don't know, we went on our happy little way, and she didn't push too hard. And then the second breeder that we worked with, he basically was like, well, maybe you just show Gunner at some of the local shows. And so I was like, how many are there? Like 3? Like, sure, why not? I'll give it a shot. And then I found out there's like a dozen local shows, and then of course there's basically a show every weekend. If you want to actually show dogs every weekend in the US, you can. And so Gunner was the first male dog that we got from my breed mentor, Charlie. And so he was very sweet about it. And I decided to go and had fun at the class. And the very first time that I had Gunner in the show ring, at exactly 6 months old, he went and won a major. So he won a 3-point major. I was like, wow, I'm so good at this. I'm amazing.
Natural.
And then I was like, we're going to go to Westminster. Exactly. We're so good. I'm amazing. We're going to go to Westminster. And so his breeder, Charlie, was like, well, cool your jets maybe just a little bit. You know, he's only 6 months old. It's your first show. And of course, on the next day of the weekend, 6 months and exactly 1 day old, Gunner, when it was his turn, went belly up and refused to do anything until the judge rubbed his belly. And of course, we got last place that day. So then I was like, well, maybe I'm not as good as I thought I was. And it's pretty entertaining. But, you know, and then, yeah.
I think we asked this before when we were having our discussions too, is so there are classes available. So if somebody's interested in, like, I think I'm going to go and compete my dog, like you reach out to like some of the local clubs and stuff for your breed in particular. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So you can get conformation classes in a couple of different ways. So some like breed clubs will offer classes or drop-in classes. Some companies like that do doggy daycare or like puppy kindergarten or those kinds of things, obedience training, will also offer conformation classes. Sometimes they offer a course. So you sign up for the course and take like a weekly class over, say, 6 to 8 weeks or something like that. Or others do just a drop-in class, which is what we do. So we've got a class up here in Fort Collins that we attend, a drop-in class on Wednesday nights. And basically anybody can go. So, you know, however experienced you are, however old your dog is, as long as you're fully vaccinated, you know, or on that road. And you can just show up and pay your $15 and get in line and get some help. And actually, when I was like really new, and I was just talking about this last night with a friend of ours, and there's a professional handler who handles Weimaraners, by the way. She was in class behind me, and we were talking about Westminster was coming up, and so I was kind of dreaming about it, but knew we weren't ready. And so she had a young dog with her, and you know, and she was like, well, I think we're gonna go. She doesn't have any majors yet, but we'll have it by then. And I was just like, wow, she's like so confident. You know, and then I discovered that she was, you know, this really big deal professional handler and sporting
professional
dogs.
handler.
And, you know, so she's in my class, which is really fun.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So, you know, so it depends on the class that you take. Yeah. Yeah.
So you get this dog or puppy and you decide that you're going to show your dog. You go to classes. Is there anything that you do differently at home, knowing that you want to show your dog in dog conformation shows?
Yeah, definitely. So I think you guys cover this a lot about the just training, the constant training for everything, and, you know, paying the dog to do the things that you want to do. Tibetan Mastiffs are not motivated by making their people happy.
Okay.
And they're also not motivated usually by food. It was the perfect breed to start
They're hard to
right?
train.
So you have to find what they're willing to work for. And so in Gunner, my first dog's case, it was he actually liked little stuffies and squeakies. In fact, he went and stole a stuffy in class from the Concorso. And I was like, dude, that's pretty bold. You know, I was like, you shouldn't steal from a Concorso, buddy.
No,
but,
that's asking for trouble.
Fortunately, we're friends with that handler now. But yeah, I was. So, you know, whatever they're willing to work for. And so our dogs generally really like freeze-dried liver and hearts, any of those of pretty much anything, and roasted chicken especially.
Yeah.
Ramen, who I took to Westminster, will become a drooly mess for roasted chicken, which is not great because a Tibetan Mastiff is supposed to be a dry mouth dog. But yeah, so whatever they're willing to work for, just to start encouraging that sort of that connection of what do you want me to do, and helping them to kind of see the point of it. So, you know, on one level, showing dogs is like you're standing there, you're asking strangers to touch them. You go out and back in a straight line, you walk in a circle. It's kind of silly. certainly from a Tibetan Mastiff's point of view, it's pretty silly. From a border collie or something, they might think it's the best thing in the world. But so getting them to kind of decide
Yes.
that it's worth doing is it's a hard thing. So one of our conformation coaches often says you can't get a dog to do something it doesn't want to do. So with Ramen in particular, he loves showing. He loves being in the ring. He loves the clapping. He'll probably want to show forever. Where Gunner, his father, was like, "Nah, this is dumb. I don't want to do it anymore." So he doesn't. I don't make him do it if he doesn't want to.
I find that so interesting, like, because I know that there's like a bunch of different dog breeds where like we always assume that the way to train is with food or with treats and that sort of thing. And I've always had food motivated dogs, so I've never explored the other forms of payment, if you will, with the dogs. But I know that I have a friend with a Great Pyrenees, and that it's the same sort of issue. And so they think, oh well, he's untrainable, but he is. You just need to figure out that motivation and drive, which is a very interesting area that I've been sort of exploring with Gibbs. I've been trying to anyways, but
so the Tibetan Mastiff and the Great Pyrenees are both livestock guardian dogs, so that makes perfect sense, right? They're motivated by keeping their property and their flock and their family safe and protected. That's what matters to them. Where a border collie is just like throw the ball, or
or like herd.
Golden Retriever, right, is like, are you happy? Are you happy now? Can I make you more happy? So yeah.
and the Weimaraner is like, I will never leave your side.
Right, exactly.
Your Velcro dog.
Yeah. So my next question, I think we tried explaining it as best as we could on the show that we did about competition and stuff, about the groupings and the way it sort of like works its way up to the best in show. Would you mind walking us through that a little bit more too, just to make sure we didn't miss anything? Or
yeah, so sure. So each show is set up in a tournament style, which you guys covered, I think, pretty well. So most shows are just 1 day in duration, where show weekends might be 2 or 3 days long. So over a show weekend, you might have 3 or 4 different shows to participate in. And so therefore 3 or 4 best in show kind of awards. So most shows are like an all breed show, like the Westminster Kennel Club is an all breed show. The National Dog Show is an all breed show. And the National Championship, those are all breed shows, which means all the breeds recognized by AKC are eligible to participate as long as they're at least 6 months old and registered with the AKC and that their breed is recognized. So it begins at the breed level. So all the Golden Retrievers, all the Weimaraners, all the Tibetan Mastiffs compete against each other for best of breed. And that's all set up, organized by classes. So basically, you can think of the whole show as a series of classes. So it begins with the puppies, 6 to 9 months, 9 to 12 months, 12 to 18 months, bred by exhibitor. There's American bred. There's open. So basically, if you don't really fit in any other class or happen to be older than 18 months, there's open. There might be a couple other, regular classes there. And so then those are organized by gender. So the boys compete against the boys and the girls compete against the girls. First in each class then competes for winner's dog or winner's bitch. And then whichever one is the first out of all those first places then goes on to the best of breed class to compete with the champion dogs or the special dogs. So we talk about class dogs and we talk about special dogs. And so class dogs are dogs without a title. Usually they're younger, not always. And then the special dogs have at least a champion title, can go on with the grand champion title or go on beyond that. So all the special dogs, so the winner boy dog and the winner girl dog compete for best of breed. And they're all competing on level footing. And so pretty much everything is gender specific except for best of breed. The judge will go through that class, choose their best of breed. Then they choose the best opposite. So that's the opposite sex to the sex of the best of breed. So as I think you guys explained this well. So if the best of breed is a bitch, the best opposite is going to be a dog. or vice versa. And then second place for each is a select dog and a select bitch. So that's second place to the best of breed and best opposite. And then in between that, actually, they offer the best of winners. So that's the best between the winner's dog and the winner's bitch. The best of the winner's dog or winner's bitch could be selected as best of breed or best opposite or any of the other things as well. And then points are given at all of those levels. So winner's dog, winner's bitch receive points based on the gender. Best of winners would receive points if the best of winners is a dog, but the bitches had more points, then the best of winners would get the points, the crossover points. I don't know if that quite makes sense, but so let's say there's 2 points for dogs and 3 points for bitches. And then the dog wins best of winners. Then instead of the 2 points, the dog gets 3 points. So the best of winners.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yep. And then the points are assigned.
And
sorry, go ahead.
No problem. I remember asking before, and I hope I'm not taking us too far off topic here, but we were talking about who decides on what makes the characteristics of a best in a particular breed.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And you were saying it's the different breed organizations, right? They
Correct,
have a decided upon standard for that breed, and then
Correct.
the judges accordingly with those things. Because I always wondered who knows what
decides?
the premium size of a brisket on a Weimaraner is
exactly. And so the breed judges, in order to be recognized by AKC, you have to have so many dogs registered, and you have to have a breed club, and that breed club owns the standard. So, so for us, it's the American Tibetan Mastiff Association. They own the Tibetan Mastiff standard for the United States. And so I think I was looking at it earlier. I think that was approved back in 2012 or something. The Tibetan Mastiff was entered into the AKC back in 2007 or so. And so it gets updated occasionally. You'll also see the rules, I think, are a little bit different in Canada because there's a recognized breed standard for Tibetan Mastiff in Canada, but there isn't a recognized breed club in Canada. So I don't exactly know how things work for the CKC.
Yeah.
But you could look at...
Yeah.
So, but you could look at the Weimaraner standard in Canada versus the US, and they're probably similar, but they may not be exactly the same.
Do you know of people who are interested in competing that go around shopping for a perfect dog in hopes to win a competition? Does that happen?
Sure, it absolutely does. Yeah. Actually, so in Ramen's litter, we talked to somebody and he was like, well, can you guarantee that our dog will win the show? And I was like, it's 7 weeks. You'll get it at 9 weeks at the earliest. I'll sell you a prospect.
Wow.
And, and at the time, the number one Tibetan Mastiff had never won a best in show. So I was like, no, I can't guarantee you that. And, and
yeah.
But yeah, so definitely people go to, certain breeders or, look for certain characteristics, and definitely we'll start with that end goal in mind. Yeah.
Just to get back to the points, I have a question about that. Now, to become a champion, you need 15 points. And then to become a grand champion, you need 25.
Correct.
Now, there's all these different levels of grand champion where there's bronze, silver, gold, and platinum, which is 800 plus points.
Right.
How long does it take to get to a grand champion platinum level?
I don't know. I don't have one of those.
Have you ever seen one?
Yet.
Sure, not yet. Exactly.
Have you ever seen one?
I'm sure I have. I can't think of anyone off the top. The Tibetan Mastiff that won Best of Breed at Westminster I actually don't know exactly. He's a multiple level grand champion, but I don't remember how high up he is.
Okay.
Yeah. So it depends on.
So that's a lot of dog shows.
It's a lot of dog shows. And so, so it depends on how often are you showing, how much competition do you actually have, and then, how well are you doing with the frequency that you're out there.
And is there, it kind of got me thinking, is there an age limit? Because to get to 800 plus points, you showing your 13-year-old
No.
13-year-old dog?
You can. There's no time limit at all. Yeah, you absolutely can.
Aw.
So they have two specialty classes called veterans, and so it's like 7 years or older, and sometimes I think it's 12 years or older, and that's sort of up to the clubs as to whether or not they have a veteran class. But yeah, I mean, sometimes veterans win the whole thing. So yeah, you can
Wow.
show. I mean,
Wow.
you can show it. The only limit is they have to be at least 6 months old, but you can show them as long as they want to, as long as they, are a good representation
As
of
long
the
as
standard.
they're willing. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
My question was and my husband and I were talking about this because they're all very my family's very excited that I'm talking to a Westminster competitor. It is very exciting. But is there like a cash prize associated with winning different levels or anything? Like, are people in this, like, is there like a financial motivation, or is it literally just the passion of like competing dogs and being in that arena?
It's bragging rights and competing and all that. I think there might be a small cash prize for Westminster. Some cases there's like awards, like dog food awards or things like that. But a lot of times it's,
Okay.
just ribbons and maybe a trophy. But yeah, there's not a lot of money to be had as far as winning competitions. But the conformation is really about judging breeding stock. And so, if a dog does well at Westminster, it's likely to have, more opportunity as a stud or a dam as far as breeding goes.
Yeah, that's kind of what we figured it was.
Mm-hmm,
It's
mm-hmm.
like it's like more of a breeding opportunities for you and sort of like a
Correct.
good or prestigious like lineage so that people want to
Yeah.
come and buy the next best in show dog from you.
Well, exactly. And so, I went to Westminster, which is, a 3 days drive away from us. And so we actually got to see some dogs in person that we don't normally get to see. And aside from like Facebook or whatever. And so it's nice to see that some of the dogs are exactly what you expected or better than what you expected, or and to get to talk to some of those breeders and say, hey, maybe we do want to have a breeding in the future, or not, or whatever. But it's nice to be able to sort of
Mm-hmm.
have that conversation as part of the whole event.
And until
Mm-hmm.
until we did our dog confirmation episode, like when I got Ralph, I did some research and I saw that, most of I think probably all of the dogs at the breeder that I got Ralph were all like CH and then their name.
Mm-hmm.
And like I knew
Mm-hmm.
that was champion. I didn't really know what that meant. I
Right.
knew they were all like show dogs, but I didn't quite know exactly what it meant. But now I do.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and so buying a puppy from like a show breeder or a breeder who does show is really a wonderful thing, even if you don't want to show dogs. So
Mm-hmm.
because all the puppies get the same care, right? All the dogs get the same care. They've
Yeah.
had all the same health testing. You've got the same guarantee, and just like I don't know if you guys have siblings. I think maybe you do. I don't remember from your calls, but let's I have siblings, and so while the four of us are all from the same parents, we don't have exactly the same conformation, right? So our structure's a little bit different, our attitude's a little bit different,
Yeah.
right? And so a great breeder, a good breeder, a responsible breeder doesn't produce a whole litter of show quality dogs, right? So they're good temperaments, but they're maybe not
No.
exactly perfect, right? And frankly, no dog is exactly perfect. So it's really a great place to go if you want a good quality, predictable, purebred dog, and not even be interested in showing them.
Do you find like when you go to the show, do the breeds sort of stick together? Is it sort of like cliques at a high school like playground? Is it sort of like, oh, sorry, only Tibetans over here, please?
So I got a piece of advice early on that said your best friends in dog showing are going to be outside of your breed. And I was like, well, that's kind of interesting.
Okay.
But it's true actually, because it's still a competition and there's still humans involved.
Mhm.
And so sometimes we take it more seriously than we maybe
Right.
should, or, I probably annoy a lot of people because for me, I've got a day job, we have a farm, we have alpacas, we have all the dogs. Dog showing is not the top of my list. It's something I enjoy doing. It's something I like to do well. I'm definitely interested in seeing the other dogs and talking to the other breeders about stuff, but it's not the most important thing in my life or my world. And even as much as Ramen enjoys it, it's not the most important thing in his world either. And so maybe I annoy some people in that regard, but I actually always joke that we're honorary Concorsos because we hang out with the Concorso people most of the time. So.
Which is, I can't remember if I told you or not, but that's the exact the next breed of dog that I would like to get. So I'll have to come speak to you again once I'm Cane Corso shopping.
Yeah.
Kathryn.
Yeah.
At the end of the day on Sunday, I went back to the website and Best in Show showed up. Like the first thing I saw was Wasabi. And I was not expecting to see that breed as the Best in Show.
Yeah.
He's very cute. But I was expecting to see, I don't know, like a bigger dog, like a golden retriever or a German shepherd or something
or the
like
Samoyed the Samoyed that I guess is the number one dog, right?
Yeah.
So this tiny little hairy bug just like walking down, his hair just floofing in the air.
I don't know much about them or Pekingese in general, but I do know that handler, I believe, is the breeder of that dog, and they generally do pretty well. So I think he must understand something really special about the breed standard on the Pekingese. But yeah, it's not something maybe I should read up on the Pekingese, but it's not something that I understand. So I haven't spent any time reading the Pekingese standard.
He's very cute. You could see his little paws, like while he's walking, you could see his little paws show up under all that fur.
Yeah,
it's wild.
I find it so interesting because not a lot of people not a lot of people know about the details and like the work and like all these things, like the breed standards and like the classes and the this and everything. But when I went to work after the weekend and people know that I have this dog podcast, they said, "Oh, did you see the Westminster?" And everybody's talking about Wasabi. And like, "Oh, did you see him? Did you see the Pekingese? Can you believe it?" And people are always curious to know which breed won the show.
Yeah.
And it does vary from year to year. Like I can remember it was like a Bichon Frise one year. I can remember one year, I think a while back, like, because I'm again, like the Westminster is never something I watched from like beginning to end, but like you would catch it on TV here and there and you can't help but watch because it's just like beautiful dogs, like again, prancing around these arenas, like, and you always wonder, like I always wonder, like, who are these judges and what are they judging and what are they looking for exactly? So I really enjoyed our show that talked about conformation and what it is exactly that they're looking for.
So it's an important thing, right? So each dog is being judged against its standard. So it's individual standard. So, when you're a group judge or a best in show judge, I mean, so there's 197 breeds recognized by the AKC. So the best in show judge has to be experienced in all of those breeds. And they don't know who they're going to see until the dogs come out. So the best in show judge,
the last moment,
at Westminster, right? So at some of the other shows, like the smaller local shows, it's possible to have the breed judge, group judge, best in show judge all be the same person at a smaller show. But at Westminster or the national championship, that judge is sequestered the whole day, and they don't see they don't know who the winners are at all until they come into the ring. So, imagine they have to be, an expert on 197 breeds to judge 7. And so then they're trying to decide which of these 7 dogs, which of these 7 dogs is the most correct representation of their individual breed standard. It's an awesome responsibility, I think.
I wonder, do you have any idea what's required of them? Like do they study, do you think, before the show? Like so that they like again, do they look over? Do you think, I'm sure they have experience, like a lot of them. I would imagine that they would be involved in like shows on many different levels leading up to that point in their lives. But I'm wondering if it's something like they study for months beforehand, because again, like you don't know which ones you're going to see like at the end of the day. And do they keep them sequestered so that they don't have like bias? Like I find it interesting that they don't let them watch like the different class shows and stuff like that. But it must be
Yeah,
just so it's like fresh set of eyes and
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, so they have so to be a judge, you have to have so many years experience in your original breed. And then you have to test for that, and then you have to spend a certain period of time judging them, and then you add breeds. They add breeds along the way, and there's some rules around, how much time you have to spend, and who those mentors can be, and that sort of thing. And so I've done a little breed mentoring for new judges, but not a lot. And then they are, showing or judging dog shows, I don't know, depending on the judge, every weekend, once a month, whatever.
Yeah.
And then at the venue, they actually have all the breed standards there. So if the judge had a question, they could stop and go review the standard if they wanted to. So if for some reason,
okay.
Okay.
I mean, I would expect, at Westminster, I mean, those are pretty experienced, and, top flight judges, as they say.
Yeah.
And, but I mean, if they need to take a break and say, oh, what is it about the, Pekingese that's so incredibly special, that I, just to make sure that, say, the Pekingese versus the Whippet, what's the difference between the two of them, and what's more important? They could stop and review that.
I wish they almost did like a sort of like behind the scenes, like sort of like snippet afterwards, and have them explain, like, well, when I measured this, like he was a bit this or too much of that or whatever. I'd almost want like a walkthrough, like a sort of docu-series or something.
I actually wish that the judges would do that. So they, in AKC, they don't really, I mean, you may have a conversation with the judge after, but they don't spend time explaining why they chose or placed dogs in the way that they did, like they do at livestock shows. So I don't know how things happen in Canada, but, here, if you go see a goat show, and you're looking at a whole bunch of Boer goats, and to me, they all look the same. But once they place it, the judge actually calls and explains why they put them in the way that they do. And they do the same with the alpaca show. So I do wish the AKC did that.
But in terms of Westminster, like, or even any of the dog shows, do you ever receive like any kind of feedback, like whatsoever?
I've received informal feedback. So when I've had the opportunity to speak with judges after the fact, they've told me things about what they liked or didn't like about my dog, or had a question on the standard. I've answered those things. Or one time Ramen and I got a group placement, and I was shocked. And so the lady next to me came out instead of me, and the judge stopped it. And then she took me aside and said, if you're not sure, come out and make the judge clarify the decision. And I was like, okay, yes, ma'am, but
yeah.
Okay. When Ramen was a puppy, I had him in the group ring. He was, 7 or 8 months old. So, as my husband said, he was a boy amongst men in the group ring. And the judge actually stopped us. The judge actually stopped us on the way out and said, he's wonderful. Bring him back. Please keep bringing him back. He's going to be wonderful when he matures. And, so we have.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I don't think we've seen her again, but hopefully soon we will. But yeah.
So you showed Ramen at the Westminster show. So I know you mentioned that there was different types of competitors where it's like the owner that's the handler, or it's a professional, or you pay a handler. So was the Westminster show like a owner handler competition, or can you decide for your own dog?
You can decide for your own dog. So at Westminster, they did have a junior handler competition, which are kids between about the age of 8 and 18, somewhere around there. And so they actually get judged based on their handling skills, not the dog's structure or conformation. So there was a different track for juniors. Okay. And then in the conformation ring that I was in, I'm a breeder, owner, handler for Ramen. We had, most of the handlers were professional handlers. And there was another, I don't know if she's the breeder. She is a breeder, but I don't know if she was the breeder of the dog that she was handling. But another owner handler was in there as well. So yeah, at Westminster or any AKC show, any sort of level of handler can be in the ring. There are tracks of competition. So say they didn't do, at Westminster, they did not do the National Owner Handled Series, but they do that at a lot of shows. So our next show will probably be in Greeley, which is about a half hour east of us. It's a big show here in Colorado, and they have a whole track for National Owner Handled Series. So only non-professional owner handled owners can handle their dog in that whole track.
Okay.
And then they also have a bred by exhibitor series. So only breeder owners can enter in that track. Professional handlers are allowed if they're the breeder and owner of record of the dog. They also, I think, one day have a veteran track, so they'll have a best veteran in show as well. So those paths are chosen in the regular conformation ring, like what you saw at Westminster. But then they would also, after they do the best of breed and all those, then they'll also say, here's the best owner handled dog, here's the best bred by exhibitor dog, best veteran or whatever, and then you get a ribbon for that, and then you can go on to the respective groups. So owner handled working group or whatever. Yeah.
Is it nerve-wracking, Kathryn? Like, are you nervous every time you go into the ring? Is it like a performance, and you're like, oh my god, I hope this goes well?
I used to be very nervous and seriously felt like I was going to throw up. And I was surprisingly not nervous for Westminster, but I definitely felt like a novice because, our last show was in February, right before the pandemic. So it'd been a year and a half or so.
Okay.
So I was like, whoa, I feel like I don't know what I'm doing. Although we had done lots of practicing and stuff. But yeah, I used to get nervous a lot.
Well, you looked like you knew what you were doing. I was up. Yeah. I was in bed still at 9.
Good for you. You should sleep in on a Sunday.
I was trying to pull it up on my phone. I was trying to pull it up on my phone and it wouldn't work. And by the time I got up and got to my laptop, it said that it was over. And I was like, oh no. And then it took forever for the video to show up on the website.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they started, I don't know for sure. So either we started early or they started broadcasting late. I think they probably started broadcasting a little bit late. So that was a little bit of a bummer. But yeah, I was like, I was late all too. Of my stuff. Yeah.
And then I kept looking for the golden retriever one. And it didn't show up until I think the next day. And then I looked at it and it was an hour long.
An hour?
Yeah. It was over an hour for the golden retrievers.
Oh my goodness.
I know. We were like 10 minutes and yeah. Well, there were like 44 44 golden retrievers entered. That was the largest entry.
Yeah. Wow.
And so if you imagine that it's about 2 minutes per dog, it's almost an hour and a half if everybody was there. So, where for Tibetans, there were 7 entered and 6 were present. And so we were done in, 10, 12 minutes.
So we did an episode before on like sort of some of the rare breeds of dogs, and I think you listened in on that one because we did Tibetan Mastiffs. And
I know, I was
surprised to see that. But do you see new breeds every year where you're just like, oh my goodness, what is that? Like, because we haven't even touched, I think, like the tip of the iceberg, like with the different kinds of breeds out there.
Yeah, so there's definitely new breeds every year. They go through something called the FSS Foundation Stock Service, I believe. I don't exactly know how that works, but essentially it's a breed is applied to be recognized by the AKC, and then they have to establish their breed club and the breed standard and have so many registrations and stuff. So the FSS will all compete together. And then once then they're recognized, then of course they'll get their own. So this year, a newly recognized breed is the Presa Canario, which is a big white working dog with cropped ears. So similar in looking, kind of like a pit bull, kind of like a Cane Corso in appearance. So that was a new breed for working. There was a new herding breed, Barbet, something like that. And we were walking around and we saw a group of them getting photos, and I turned to my friend and I'm like, what's that? She's like, I don't know. So yeah, we do see It's it was a big
I am looking at this I'm
Canario.
looking
I
at
think it
the
is something like
Presa
that.
Canario, and it's yeah, it looks like a brindled, like sort of a bit smaller than a Cane Corso, kind of, eh? But yeah, with the cropped
Oh,
ears, and like
Oh, yeah.
it's a beefy looking dog, that's for sure.
yeah. I think it's a white.
Holy
Isn't it a
smokes.
white dog? I don't. Maybe I have the name wrong.
It looks,
Well, when yeah, well, when I Google image Canario, it's mostly brindled ones that are coming up, but maybe it's uh
Oh,
like
maybe there's
maybe there
multiple
was a white one
colors.
for the show. Yeah. Oh my
I
goodness,
would
that's
also not steal a squeaky toy
Oh,
from that
oh, oh.
dog.
Actually, actually, I think I'm wrong. It's Dogo Argentino. That's actually the new one. The one
oh
I'm thinking
yes,
of is
yes,
Dogo
yes, yes.
Argentino. Yeah,
Yes, I'm familiar with it, with those guys. Yeah.
yeah,
They're the, yeah, all white.
yes.
Very like
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
I think they call them like ghost face or something like that. Like
I don't know. They look like really kind of serious dogs, but I have to say we passed a group of them when we were at the show, and they just seemed like really happy, you know, relaxed. They were happy and
Are
relaxed,
they like
and
boxers?
I don't know. I don't know much about them. Yeah.
they look like what do you call it when you have like no pigment in your skin? An albino, like an albino
Albino.
cane corso. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about just practice. So, we did lots
Yes.
and lots of
Mhm.
practice and training. And I know you guys talk about that a lot, which I totally appreciate. Dog owners need to understand how much training is involved in having a well behaved, well mannered dog. And whether or not you're competing in conformation or agility or obedience or whatever, dogs with manners is nice for people, especially people who aren't crazy about dogs. So yeah, so we practice. So we go to our regular
Mhm.
confirmation class on Wednesday nights, and then we practice different scenarios. So we went to a different class to practice on AstroTurf, which is a funky surface.
Hmm.
We practiced in a big outbuilding that had soft dirt floor. We've practiced on grass, indoor, outdoor. Practice with different judges by shape, size, gender. All those things are just really important. I think for me, I didn't want it there. I wanted there to be as few surprises as possible. So in the event that we
Hmm.
were to win best of breed, so I think you guys saw the breed judging was outside on grass, and the group judging was inside on an AstroTurf floor
Yes.
with lots of cameras and lights and crowds and stuff. And so while I couldn't practice with all kinds of cameras, right, I wanted to make sure that at least the flooring
Yeah.
wasn't a surprise. Some shows,
Mhm.
like there's a show coming up later this year called Morris and Essex, which is kind of a fancy show that's every 4 years. Those dogs are judged, all dogs are judged on like a platform, which is something we would have to practice if we decided to go, because that's never happened for us. And then also just when I
Okay.
start, when their dogs are young, we go to the farmer's market and make sure that we, see wheelchairs and skateboards and, strollers and, people in walkers and, just different
Yes.
sizes and shapes and, head coverings and glasses and beards and all those kinds of things. As much as you can expose them to as possible is really important.
Hmm.
Being able to potty on a leash is
Yes,
important. Being able,
socialization.
mm-hmm, being
Hmm.
able to ignore all the other dogs is really
Hmm.
important. That's like probably
Yes.
even if you
Yes.
never want to show a dog, going to confirmation class or puppy kindergarten or whatever, just to learn to ignore the other dogs it's wonderful. It's a wonderful skill to have and definitely worth practicing. So we just, we practice lots of things all the time.
And I think people don't understand that either.
Yeah.
Like it's really difficult, and especially like as you said, at an event like that, it's
Yeah.
little things like that people forget about from the dog's perspective, because ultimately their senses are like way more like
Right.
heightened than ours. Of course, there's smells, there's surfaces, there's textures, there's people and stuff. And so yeah, I was curious about that. Does the Westminster have several different surfaces, or is it just the outdoor like grass and the indoor like astroturf?
Yeah, so this event was because it was at Lyndhurst Castle, north of Manhattan. Because of COVID, it was outdoors. So we had the grass
Hmm.
and the AstroTurf. Normally, Westminster is at a couple of piers in New York City, and I'll get the numbers wrong, so I'll just leave those out. There's a particular pier that it goes to,
Hmm.
so it's indoor. in February, it's all AstroTurf on the inside. And then the groups are at Madison Square Garden, which is also indoor AstroTurf, everything. So, and then there normally it's a benched show. So the dog has to sit the whole day, stay there for the crowds to come and learn about the dogs and stuff. So, so that was not the case here. It was show and go, they called it. So, which is pretty typical of most shows. Is you go for your event, you hang around if you want to, or you go home if you want to. And so they were encouraging show and go, but they weren't kicking anybody off the property. So, so we did our event. We knew we weren't going to the groups. We took a little nap in the car, and then we went back and explored the grounds around the castle and, took some photos and watched some other breeds. And, then we left a few hours later. Yeah. So what else? I don't know.
So will you go back again?
I think so. It was really fun. It was really, really fun.
Great.
Yeah. I don't know. The next Westminster is in January, and I'm not entirely sure why, but I think it has to do with maintenance at the breed venue. But yeah, so the next one's in January, and qualification is by October, I think. Oh, so that's actually something we should talk about. So some shows, yeah. So some shows require a qualification to enter or an invitation to enter, and but most of them you can just go, as long as you meet those requirements. But like Westminster, you have to have qualified by at least having a championship by a certain date, or and then at Westminster, the top 5 of each breed are invited, and then others apply to attend. But like if you were doing like a breed specialty, a friend of ours is going to a Cairn Terrier specialty that's actually going to be out here in Greeley, and the top 20 dogs are invited. So her dogs got invited to that. And so only the top 20 Cairns are actually in that particular show. And that's by invitation only. So.
All right. Well, is there anything else you would like to make mention of dog showing or conformation or any of your area of expertise?
Yes, you should go. And once COVID's over, before COVID, so before COVID, shows were open to the public. You could just go. Some you have to buy tickets, like Westminster or whatever, you have to buy a ticket to attend. But most of them are free. So just go, You can talk to the breeders. Yeah. And so post-COVID, I would expect that to return. And then, shows have lots of other things too, like agility or fast cat or dock diving or, meet the breed events or whatever. It's a great, in my opinion, a really wonderful way to spend a day, even if you don't have a dog entered.
I couldn't agree more.
Spend the day surrounded by dogs. Yes, please.
Yes, exactly.
All right. Well, does that wrap up today's show?
I think it does.
Well, thank you again, Kathryn, for joining us, and thank you for reaching out. And it's definitely been educational for both Vero and I, and hopefully for a lot of our listeners. And I can't wait to touch base with you and keep in contact about everything. And if I should start to, show my Cane Corso when I eventually get one, I definitely know where to go and ask now. But thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Kathryn.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a great time. So.
No problem. Join us next week on Let's Boop Snoots.
Boop. Boop.